welcome to the Silvers Connection. I'm Ernie Silvers, your host. With me today is Jeremy Richter. Jeremy, welcome.
It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Let me tell you a little bit about Jeremy. Jeremy's got all kinds of credentials. This guy is degreed up the behind here. He is a product, an alum of Cal State San Bernardino MBA program, which is probably the most awesome credential that he has. But he's got a background in kinesiology and sports psychology. He is a master motivator, resilience trainer, and performance expert with Magellan Federal, teaching Army personnel how to perform at a higher level. And that's what we do here at Silvers Connection. We are working on you being a better version of you. So Jeremy, welcome, welcome, welcome again. So happy to have you here. An awesome part that you are. I'm going to pump it one more time. MBA alum. Woo! Yeah, baby. So Jeremy, how did you get into resilience training? That sounds so unique. What is that exactly?
Yeah, so resilience training can look a lot of different ways. There's the program we have with our contract. Basically, some people out of UPenn, some researchers and people within our program came together to make a great resilience program. And so for us and how we look to operate is it's the ability to bounce back and thrive from adversity. So not just survive, but thrive, which is that next level. And then also the willingness to take calculated, necessary risks. Understand that, hey, it might take something out of me. It might be a chance, a leap of faith, but I'm willing to do that knowing that good things are going to happen. One way or another, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to grow from it. It's going to be a great experience.
So this is doing things, you say, taking calculated risks. So this would be being present, being mindful, being considerate of what you're doing?
Well, I think it's, hey, do you want to apply for that job? Are you willing to move out of state? Are you willing to put yourself out there in something that's a little uncomfortable, but you want to do it, and it can make for some great outcomes, but it takes a little chance on your end.
Yeah, it wears you out. We're talking specifically about how the job market has changed, the environment has changed with the current situation. So many folks are displaced out of work or temporarily furloughed. It is tough for people to keep going, to keep a positive mindset. How can we work on that? How can we develop a positive mindset?
Yeah, and like a lot of things, there's so many factors that can come into play. Mm-hmm. But one thing that stands out is just realizing that there can be this sense of hopelessness and helplessness that can start to settle into our brains from time to time. Mm-hmm. And if you look at explanatory style, and really it has to do with, as I live life, I explain why things happen. We all do. Each one of us creates this narrative as to why things occur. If something good happens, I say, here's why that happened. Something bad happens, here's why that happened. And something that's really interesting is we can do so in a way that's effective and it helps us, or in a way that's not effective and actually is very, very hindering and problematic. And that can lead to hopelessness and helplessness. So for instance, if something bad is happening and I explain that in a way that's permanent, it's mm-hmm. ongoing, mm-hmm. I have little or no control over it. All of a sudden, if you start to imagine that, hey, here's a bad thing, it's going on, it won't end, and I have no control. That starts to paint a bleak picture. And it's often coupled with this pervasiveness where it will bleed over to all areas of my life. And again, this is just some event that I am thinking about. I'm creating this narrative. I'm explaining it in such a way where now something is impacting all areas of my life. It's not just me as a professional. It's not just me as a brother, as a son, as a boyfriend, as a friend. It's all areas of my life, and it's going on forever. Mm-hmm. Now you can start to see where that hopelessness and helplessness settles into us. And that's only because we are thinking in such a pattern. And that can be problematic. And so we can look to overcome that. We can look to catch how we start to explain things and explain things in a more effective manner, which can then give us more hope going forward.
So this is that self-talk that goes on in our brains. We're constantly talking to ourselves. And I think sometimes folks, they don't pay attention to it. It's just noise in their head and they're not really listening. And we have to understand that the brain is like a computer. It can't discern fact from fiction, right from wrong. Whatever you feed it, it believes to be true. So in going with what you're telling us, if we're painting or justifying something in a negative light, that negativity is going to spread through everything we do. Is that right? Is that what you're telling us?
So to an extent, and if you think about it, here's where some layers and complexity come into play.
Mm-hmm.
We have a negativity bias, which is a tendency to see more of the bad than the good. So we are naturally...
No, say that's not true. Say that's not true.
It is, but we can fight it. There's strategies, and I could get into it in a little bit of how we can overcome this, but we have a natural tendency as humans to see more of the bad than the good. And then, as you're saying, we have this inner dialogue, right? This inner thinking happening. Mm-hmm. And often people think life makes me feel a certain way. Hey, this person cut me off. He made me angry. No. You perceive that in a way that made you angry.
You made you angry.
Yeah. And that's why, and you've all experienced this. Something happens and people experience it in two different ways. One person is upset. One person doesn't care. One person is excited. It's the same event. It's how we are interpreting that event. Mm-hmm. So essentially our thoughts are driving our emotions. And so it's hard for people to be aware of these. It's easy to say, hey, just be aware of what you're thinking. Oh, but it gets complicated because there's so many thoughts.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit and keep it simple because I'm a simple guy. If let's say, all right, Jeremy, I'm going to believe what you're telling me, but where do I start? How do I begin? How do I make it simple? Let's don't make it complex. I know we can make it complex, but how does a simple guy like me, how do we get started? What do we do first?
Yeah, so I think the first one is based on cognitive behavioral therapy. It's, hey, life happens. So there's event, right? Life happens. I have thoughts about life. Those thoughts drive my emotions and reactions. So simply put is, as I live my life, can I separate life from what I'm thinking, from what I'm feeling and doing? That's the first step, because if you think life is making you feel and do things, you are giving up control. And if you give up control, then that can lead to, again, some of that helplessness. And so you look to say, hey, I want to gain more control over my life. And this is where people talk in a generic manner. Hey, just see the bright side of things. Hey, have a positive mindset. That is all, like, that's accurate. It's just really overgeneralized. But right. For you, first you have to understand, hey, what am I thinking? What's my natural tendency? And then you can look to actually do something about that. Mm-hmm. But if you have no idea of what you're thinking and how you're interpreting the world, I can tell you be positive. It doesn't matter. It's not going to help you at all.
Where do these thoughts come from? I mean, the question more specifically is, how do we learn to do this? I mean, I don't remember anybody sitting me down and saying, all right, now, Ernie, this is how you're going to think about life. So help us understand, where do we get this from?
Oh, yeah, that's a deep question, right?
I said keep it simple, and now we're going deep, right?
And that's life, right? I guess in a simple way, there's no one answer, right? There's little lessons that we learn growing up from those that raised us, the people that we're around, the education that we get, all influence how we see the world and what we make of the world. Right. But another aspect is our values and beliefs. You know, what we value and what we believe about the world. Right. Going to impact us greatly in how we interpret things. Mm-hmm. Right. So if I value respect and someone does something that is disrespectful to me, I'm probably going to perceive that in a negative light. Right? I'm going to see that as bad because underlying is something of respect.
So we don't really get to choose these things. They sort of happen to us. We are raised up in them. We absorb essentially other people's beliefs on things. And before we can change anything, we first need to figure out, what is it that I do believe about this and that? And is that okay?
Yeah. And so, like, what do I believe? How was I raised? What do I believe right now? And then, frankly, sometimes, unfortunately, we're not always aware of those. And I could be aware of it right now and generate a list. but tomorrow, some of them fall out of my awareness. They literally all can't be in my awareness.
Right.
And so sometimes those things will have me react in a strong manner. But again, if like respect is something that is important to me, I can keep that in check where next time someone disrespects me, even they cut me off, I don't need to fly off the handle. Like, I know that's something I care about. And I go, hold up, I can respond in a better light. I can perceive this as, hey, this person is just driving how they're driving. I'm going to drive how I need to drive and listen to, you know, the next Silver's, you know, Connection podcast, right?
Yes, please. So it's choosing. It's again, living on purpose, being present, and choosing the response, not reacting, but choosing the response.
Yeah, and that could be initial, or hey, you could just have your initial not so good response and then look to adjust that. And then there's other things that we can do on the outside in a different way that's going to make that even easier. So it's like synergy. When you think about, like, you know, Captain Planet or Voltron, like, one is powerful, but when we do multiple things right, it makes everything work better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes we get trapped in the thought process that it's going to be instantaneous and I'll do it once and I'll never have to do it again. And that's not true, is it?
No, it's just a good analogy comes to the physical aspect, right? Like if you're hitting some curls, one day hitting curls does not give you big arms, you know? Like one day doing squats doesn't give you big legs. It just doesn't work that way.
But we live in the microwave generation. I want everything now, damn it. One-stop shop, one hit wonder. I want it now, instantaneous. That's how we've been raised up, isn't it? I mean, that's our world. So,
but that's why you have the Rolling Stones to remind you can't always get what you want.
Now you're doing rock lyrics. That's nice. Okay, just don't sing them for us, okay?
So like this idea though, like if I train something, right, it takes time. And same thing with our brain. And we know with like learning, we know neuroplasticity occurs as a kid and as an adult. My brain literally will change as I push it. As I think differently, my brain literally changes and adapts. Mm-hmm. And a very simple analogy is like erosion, right? You have some dirt, a little bit of water goes through, but over time, all of a sudden it grinds in. It makes a very deep, Grand Canyon, if you will. And it's like, that's such a way of thinking. And so we have patterns in thinking that are ingrained in our brains. Mm-hmm. And if I work, it's hard to change it, but the more I work at it, the better I get at it. And little by little, I can literally start to adjust my brain and how I think about it.
Small changes repeated over time creates large change, right?
And so then you're a success overnight.
You're in, a 12-year success overnight.
Absolutely.
I'm going to imagine before we can get started, though, we need to establish goals. What is it we want? Because basic change management is, what is it now? What do you want it to be? How do we get there? Yeah. Right? So how do we establish the goal? How do we maintain the goal? Talk about how that figures in with training.
So establishing a goal for like changing our mindset can be rather difficult because we know with goal setting, we want to be specific and measurable with our goal setting. If we're not, and without that time hack, it's going to not be an effective goal. So to answer that question, unfortunately, like you could say, okay, I have two ideas now, deliberately how you can set a goal of going through this process. One effective way is saying, hey, the next time I have a moment that doesn't go so well for me, it's, hey, it's, a road rage moment. I'm yelling at that person, or, I got fired up with someone over Facebook, whatever it may be. What you could do is look to say, hey, or even just once a day, I'm going to write out an event that took place. Here, this guy cut me off. Just the facts. That's life. And then I'm going to write my interpretation of that, right? This jerk doesn't know how to drive. And then I can write out my emotion and how that thought drove my emotion, right? So I was annoyed, right? Which is like anger, but it's more detailed. It's more indicative of truly how I was feeling. And then reaction, I yelled and gripped the steering wheel. And then I can reflect, did that help me or not? And frankly, if I had more than one thought, which, spoiler alert, you probably did. You could do that for 2 or 3. Like you have 2 or 3 thoughts and you can just reflect. And this is an exercise that we have soldiers go through, spouses go through, civilians go through. And this is a good example of it's like you're hitting the exercise in the gym. Here's a mental, exercise, a worksheet that you can navigate through. And if you did that and said, hey, I'm going to do this once a day, you would then be more tuned into what you're thinking and what you're feeling.
I think
the other goal I would say is if you said, hey, I need a goal to work on my mindset, Jeremy, like I want to have a better mindset. Well, if you think in a more optimistic manner, it's going to help you explain life better. And so you won't be hopeless and helpless because you will perceive those moments differently. Mm-hmm. And so there's powerful research that gives you better relationships, better sleep, better performance, more satisfaction in your life, less depression. And all you have to do is find 3 good things. 3 good things that happened in your day and reflect on why it's a good thing.
Nice. So small changes over a long period of time.
It is insanely powerful. If I gave you those benefits and said, hey, the side effect is it costs you some money, you have to swallow a pill, you might get a headache, people would still take it. Right. However, and there's no side effects, no cost. All you have to do is say, hey, as I'm brushing my teeth or as I'm having dinner, what's something good that happened today? And then you share and you go, here's why it's a good thing. And if you do that 3 times and you get your family to do that, all of a sudden now it's a whole different ballgame. Your whole family dynamic is going to change. Your work environment can change. Wherever you do this can change.
So
and it makes things dramatically easier.
Being grateful for small things.
It's that, it's an attitude of gratitude.
Yeah. And over a period of time, here's how I think you can realize or recognize that you are being successful when people start saying, what's different about you? What happened to you? And of course, you're thinking, nothing, right? But what's happened to you is perhaps that negativity is gone. Perhaps your tonality has changed. Perhaps you're now thinking about things in a different light, in a more positive light, and you're developing a new habit. And now you're not like little Mr. Sunshine or something silly, but you are real, but you're looking at the good things. You're not finding a problem for every solution, as they say. You're now looking at things, understanding that things go through cycles. And if you have a bad period or a bad day, hey, tomorrow's going to be a better day, right? And every day is that small changes, small patterns, and making better habits, better practices. So what happens when we feel like we want to quit, Mr. Performance Expert Guy? I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. This is a bunch of junk, Jeremy. How do I keep going?
Yeah, so we could talk about motivation as well, but I would say fundamentally, if you do the 3 good things, that in itself is going to bring more positive emotion. That's going to be energizing. People are going to want to be around you. It is more fulfilling to yourself, actually. Like it gives you more fuel because here's the thing. Someone that doesn't do this, right? The person that's hopelessness and helplessness, they're going to quit. There's no point. My day is terrible. Nothing's going to change. I can't do anything about it. But if the person is finding 3 good things a day, I don't know when, but something good's going to happen, right? I don't know what point it's going to be good. And there's going to be so many little good moments that I experience. That's energizing. That's fun. And like you said, people are going to notice that. So in itself, I would suggest if it feeds that energy, and especially if you get other people in your circle to do that. But as far as motivation, right? So motivation is something we need for any goal, whether that's, your MBA program, you need some motivation. For work, for finding a job, for navigating tough times, motivation is key. And I could get really crazy in motivation, but again, we'll keep it simple for now.
Don't get crazy.
And
we don't do crazy here. We can't do crazy. I think.
No. Yeah.
It's not in our
See, I got to regulate myself. I don't want to get too deep. So like people think, rewards and punishment, great motivators for a very simplistic task. And once you remove that reward or punishment, motivation ceases. It goes away. It's done. And really so much more powerful is if you know your core values. What makes up who you are at your core? The things that drive what you do. If you connect anything any task to those core values, you will have sustainable motivation forever. No one can ever take it away from you because that's who you are at your core.
Yeah.
And there's research on this. You'll have less anxiety. You'll have more satisfaction. You have more effort and persistence. You'll have more feelings of being in flow, which is a topic I can get crazy into, but I won't for now. You'll have more enjoyment in what you do and more autonomy. And we know autonomy is just a very natural thing. If I want to do things because I want to do it. Mm-hmm. And a really simple, silly example of autonomy and how powerful it is. I remember visiting my parents for the holidays, seeing the trash being full and thinking, oh, I should take out the trash. The time before me thinking that and doing it, Mom says, hey, Jeremy, take out the trash. I don't want to do it. And I should be a good son, right? It's my mom. Like, there's no reason I can't contribute and take out the trash. But just the fact that she told me to take out the trash, and I guarantee you, she said please too, right? I guarantee you, she's even asked it nicely. I'm like, I don't want it. Because the autonomy was just stripped from me instantly.
Right. It wasn't your idea now. It was somebody else's.
Yeah. But if I would have then paused and said, hold on, loyalty and caring about relationships is core to me. And this is something that will foster this relationship. Mm-hmm. I get it back. Autonomy is back. And now that moment is so much better. Taking out the trash is so much more pleasant. I'm doing it because I want to do it again. This is who I am at my core, to do a nice thing like that. So you can see how instantly these different things can occur in our lives that will impact how we feel and how much energy we have to get things done.
I think we find ourselves in moods and we don't understand the why part. How did I get here? We don't even think that. Why did I get here? We just get upset or mad or angry or offended, and we don't even realize what happened. You know, the brain's moving at nanoseconds, light years, if you will. We're just going for the ride. We're not considering anything. And all of a sudden we're all upset or treating people harshly or being offended, as I said, and we don't even know why, right? Things,
yeah, and a lot of times
victims.
That can lead to a pattern too. Like once I could be sleep deprived a little bit. I get 4 hours of sleep. All of a sudden my ability to cope goes down dramatically. Mm-hmm. And I get in this pattern of thinking where then, again, a little simple example, right? Like I was running a little late, something annoying happened. I also cut myself, and I was like, great, now I got a little blood. And I go to rinse off a dish and the water's super hot and I get angry. Are you kidding? That is so ridiculous to get angry at that. But you can just see instantly this little pattern leads to now I'm not coping as well with the hot water. And it's just a simple, but yet in real life has much more significant ramifications.
Right. Because that's just indicative of how we treat other things as well. Yeah. I'm going to go back to something here in a second. You talked about your circle. I am a believer that, we are the brand ambassador, CEO, chief marketing officer of brand me, right? We all have that. And we are in charge of the people that we surround ourselves with. We're also responsible for firing some of those people. So talking about your circle, or just in general, not your circle, but the circle of people you hang around with, how important is it to hang around certain kinds of people, and how important maybe is it to get rid of certain kinds of people?
Oh yeah. And this is a question that I think you can get a generic answer and people say, hey, surround yourself with good people and good things are going to happen. Right. And I think that's obvious and we know that. But when you really start to look deeper, relationships matter. People matter. We're so fundamentally needed to have good people in our lives. And if someone's bringing negativity all the time, it's going to be a drain on you. It's going to impact you in a poor way. And we know positive is more enjoyable, mm-hmm. right? And I can say, hey, misery loves company, but company doesn't love misery. Right? Okay. Whereas like positivity is fun. It's fun to be around people that are positive. Right. But not only that, we know positive emotion can help be a buffer for adverse events in your life. We know positive emotion makes you more creative. We know positive emotion helps you cope better. Like there's all these tremendous benefits that are associated with positive emotions. And so even just something as simple as, hey, I'm trying to create a PowerPoint. I'm trying to, create a new product. I'm trying to develop something. If I have negative people around me, I'm not going to be as effective at that. And again, think about patterns of thinking and development and growth and how I see the world. If people are trying to say, hey, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, then I'm going to start to see that as more normal. And my narrative is going to shift in a way. So how I explain things is going to be in a similar light. And so when I think about my pattern of thinking, I want to be around people that, you know, see the good in the world. I want to be around people that have optimistic thinking. And again, that's not sunshine and rainbows, right? Like, it's wed to reality, because if you're optimistic, right? And people will say, no, I'm a realist. I'm like, you say you're a realist, you don't understand optimism properly. And I would say you're not an optimist. You're not a pessimist. You're human. That's it. You're a human who thinks away, right? And so pessimistic thinkers underestimate the amount of control they have in life.
Right.
And then whereas optimistic thinkers say, hey, here's how much control I have. Here's what I could do about it. Hey, I have more confidence in myself and in my team. Hey, I understand that there's good in the world. Hey, I'm fighting against negativity bias. Like that in your circle then leads to so many more opportunities.
Yeah.
And even if you're not trying to achieve massive, great business things, just having a conversation with those people are going to be more enjoyable. Just sitting down, relaxing in your home or on a lawn or wherever is going to be more enjoyable.
Yeah, just reducing stress and enjoying life. Wow, what a concept, right? I think the thing that people overlook is they have a choice. And some folks, I don't have a choice. Well, you really do. And to choose not to choose is a choice, but you do have a choice. And do you enjoy being miserable, or would you rather be happy and mostly pleasant? Are people happy to see you, or are they happy when you leave? Right? Yeah. They're happy to see you coming or happy to see you going. Which is it? And I think we have to choose to enjoy our life, to pay attention, to work on it, understanding it's a work in progress. You're never done, right? You're never done.
Yeah. And we think about like, hey, how do I feel benefits? But there's like tactile benefits too. When I traveled all 50 states, I had people from this job in the military that lived all over. And I stayed at so many people's houses or friends of friends' houses or apartments, or because of these connections. And you really appreciate it when people say, here's food, here's a place to sleep. Some basic necessities. When people are happy to see you, they're happy to feed you, they're happy to give you money to go eat places. Like, it just makes you go, wow, like this is very powerful. And when I wake up this morning, I see 2 emails from friends sharing resources. Here's a TED Talk, here's some article, check it out. And that's because this idea of sharing knowledge, sharing information, sharing experiences and thoughts, and makes things better. Like, that's invaluable to my experience as a human.
Yeah. We can share other things too, right? So I think what we have to understand is that either positive or negative, they're both energies, and they both tend to perpetuate themselves, right? So fact is that people who spend 15 minutes on social media, we won't, just pick your poison on that one. People who spend 15 minutes on social media typically feel worse when they're done than they did when they started. Wow. Let me do that more, please, right? So why would you consciously or purposely drink poison, figuratively speaking, but why would you do that, right? It's a choice. So you can
but I'm also curious.
People or negative people, right?
And within that, it's like, why would I choose to do that? But then realizing I still have that perception of it, right? Like, if I go on social media, I can have my perception of it in a way that's going to make me feel worse or better. And how I'm thinking about things cultivates like this circle, right? Like, they're not mutually exclusive. They all layer together. And I think too often simplifying is good, but then understanding, again, it's all these little things that make a difference. It's not just one. If you do one thing, it's going to be tremendously difficult. All of them, it's still hard, but like, it makes a more powerful moment for you is doing these little things, each of them saying, hey, am I working on my thinking? Am I working on who I'm around? Am I cultivating this with each other? If I go on social media, am I cultivating the types of relationships that I want? Am I using that for the purpose I want to use it for? Or am I just defaultly look at it and go, oh, my life sucks? Then that's going to be terrible.
It's not that my life sucks. It's just, yours just seems so better.
Yeah. Well, it is pretty good, Ernie, you know.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? It's not that I'm so bad. It's just that you seem so much better. We get jealous and we're attracted. It's just terrible. Stop doing that.
That
Stop
grass is
doing
always
that.
greener, right?
Uh, yeah. Grass is always greener over the septic tank, isn't it? So help us understand taking today's environment, the COVID environment, the lockdowns, the shutdowns, the job market's a little skinny right now. Things are kind of crazy. How can we look at that differently, Jeremy? What would your if you're putting on your Dr. Jeremy hat right now, help us understand how we might perceive that differently? That would be useful.
Yeah, so I think it just depends on the person, of course, but initially say like anything that happens, there's opportunity if you seek it. All right. And so I've seen a lot of people have, Zoom parties, right? Reconnect with people, have phone calls more often. You have opportunities to work on stuff. There's always things to do. And it's just where are you spending your time? And 50 years ago, there's a lot less opportunities. But right now, you can learn whatever you want to learn. You have the internet. You can learn anything. You can learn a new skill. You can make yourself better positioned for an employment opportunity to make your business better, or frankly, just to know something. And I think sometimes there's pressure when it comes to learning. I need to learn this for a new job, or I don't know what to learn next. Learn whatever you want to learn. My experience is so weird and it's so atypical and it's so sporadic. But I tell you what, I bring all my experience into what I do. I have all this knowledge I could tap into. You never know what conversation, what moment that I could tap into expert fitness in any given second and I'm relevant. I could talk about machining and manufacturing and engineering in a second. I could talk about business in a second. I could talk about sports. And like, you never know when that information is going to be of value to you. It always helps you think about the world differently too, which then means any other information you come across, you can view that in a different light. So you don't have to have pressure on what to learn, just learn something. Or even just really truly relax and have fun. Like that could be invaluable too. And so there's opportunities if you see those opportunities.
Right.
If you want, you can focus on everything you're missing out on. But going, like mentioning flow again, there's people that become disabled, right? They become paralyzed. And they actually look at these moments as like a highlight of their life, because how it makes life then from the simple things become harder. It's more of a challenge. And we know in flow that if you have a perceived challenge in your perceived ability and you have a little balance and you challenge yourself, those moments are going to be the best moments of your life. Right. And so you could challenge yourself day in and day out. You can just sit there and watch TV, which sometimes you need it. But if you just do that, then I would suggest you're missing out on feeling great. If you challenge yourself, you will feel better.
Yeah, there's nothing good on TV. Don't sit and watch TV. There's nothing good there. So it's about making good choices where you choose to focus, right? And I think that's it. You have to make a conscious choice, right? What do you choose to do? Looking for opportunity as opposed to failure. And you're right. We now have, most of us carry around with us, one of the most powerful computers in the world, besides the one that's between your ears, right? So anything is can be known to us instantly by summoning the Google gods, right? So you never have to feel like, I don't know, because you can figure it out in, a few minutes, right? So everything is that. So it's just a matter of making good choices and where you choose to focus and seeing the opportunity, right? There is opportunity in everything. And I think that's probably key. We're going to leave it here for now. Jeremy, thank you so much for being with us. If people want to get in touch with you or know more about Jeremy Richter, how can they do that?
So Twitter, Jeremy W. Richter is a way you can reach out. Also, there's a website called rawrlearning.com, RAWR learning. And that one has a good reading list and blogs. And the name is silly, and I just want to put a little plug, is because in grad school, we came up with this idea of being a love cat, which silly name, but it means being an energy giver, not an energy sucker. And it relates to, like, we're talking about positive vibes, positive energy. Are you fun to be around? Are you willing to help people? Do you bring positive vibes to a group?
Right.
And when I was writing and helping my buddy edit his papers, I used to write "rawr." at the bottom. I'm like, you've been love catted. I just helped you out. Or I would send him articles. I would write, rawr. And so this website is our way of like sharing knowledge and sharing good vibes with people.
Awesome. That is amazing. Well, we're going to wrap it up right here. We are available on the MBA YouTube channel. That's MBA CSUSB. Find us there. Also, because we are recorded, we're available through email. That's mba@csusb.edu, mba@csusb.edu. If you have any comments, questions, or want to know more, please send us an email. We are so happy you joined us. Until next time, we're going to say goodbye. Jeremy, thank you so much for being with us. And to the rest of you folks, have a great day. Make good choices and think of 3 things that you can be grateful about every day. All right, let's be done. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take care.